The summer sun beat down on the dusty fairgrounds as Tom walked through the crowded pathways. At 6 feet 6 inches tall, he could see over most people's heads, which made navigating through the busy fair a bit easier. His worn cowboy hat cast a shadow over his weathered face, and his boots kicked up small clouds of dirt with each step. Tom had been working on ranches for over 20 years now. He knew cattle like some people knew books. He understood the language of horses and could fix almost anything with his hands. But people? That was different. He preferred the quiet company of animals to the noise and chatter of crowds. Still, he came to the county fair every year. It was tradition. Plus, he liked looking at the livestock exhibits. The farmers around here raised some fine animals, and Tom enjoyed seeing the results of their hard work. He respected people who worked with their hands and cared for living things. The fair was busier than usual this year. Families with children ran past him, laughing and calling to each other. Teenagers clustered around game booths, trying to win stuffed animals. The smell of cotton candy and funnel cakes mixed with the earthy scents from the animal barns. Tom made his way toward the livestock area, nodding politely to people he recognized from town. Most folks knew him as the quiet cowboy who kept to himself. He had a reputation for being fair and honest in his dealings, but not much of a talker. That suited him just fine. As he approached the cattle barn, something caught his eye. There, sitting on a bale of hay near the entrance, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. What struck him wasn't just that she was alone, but how still she sat. While chaos swirled around her with people rushing back and forth, she remained perfectly motionless. Her clothes hung loose on her small frame. The jeans were clearly too big, rolled up at the bottom and held up with a belt that had too many holes. Her sneakers had seen better days, with one sole starting to separate from the upper part. In her arms, she clutched a stuffed rabbit that had obviously been loved hard. Its fur was matted, one ear was torn, and the pink ribbon around its neck was faded and frayed. But it was her eyes that made Tom stop walking. They were brown and wide, and they held a sadness that no child should carry. She watched the people passing by with the careful attention of someone much older. Every few seconds, she would turn her head toward the main entrance as if waiting for someone. Tom hesitated. He wasn't good with children. He had no experience with them, really. His own childhood had ended too early when his parents died in a farming accident, and he'd been raised by his grandfather on the ranch. There had been no other children around, just work and responsibility, but something about this little girl tugged at his heart. Maybe it was the way she sat so quietly while the world rushed around her. Maybe it was how her small hands gripped that worn rabbit like it was her only friend in the world. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. When he was a few feet away, she looked up at him. Their eyes met, and Tom felt something shift inside his chest. Those brown eyes held more pain than any child should know. "Hello there," he said softly, removing his hat. His voice was deep and gentle, the same tone he used with frightened horses. The little girl studied his face for a long moment. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Mister, will you take me home?" The question hit Tom like a physical blow. He knelt down slowly, bringing himself closer to her eye level. His knees protested against the hard ground, but he ignored the discomfort. "Where are your folks, sweetheart?" he asked, looking around for any adult who might be searching for a lost child. The girl's grip on her rabbit tightened. "My uncle brought me here," she said. "He said he'd be right back. That was—" She paused, looking at the sky as if trying to calculate time. The sun was up high when he left. Now it's getting lower. Tom followed her gaze. The sun was indeed lower in the sky. It had to be at least 3 or 4 hours since midday. His concern deepened. "What's your name, honey?" he asked. "Lucy," she said. "Lucy May. That's a pretty name." "I'm Tom." He kept his voice calm and reassuring. "Lucy May, do you remember where your uncle said he was going?" Lucy May shook her head. "He was with some men. They were talking real quiet, and then they walked away fast. Uncle Danny told me to wait right here and not move." Tom's jaw tightened. Something wasn't right about this situation. What kind of man leaves a young child alone at a busy fair for hours? "Have you eaten anything today, Lucy May?" he asked. She shook her head again. "Uncle Danny said we'd get something later." Tom's heart ached. The child had been sitting here alone, hungry, waiting for someone who clearly wasn't coming back. At least not any time soon. "Well, I think we should get you something to eat," Tom said, "and maybe we can find your uncle." Lucy May's eyes lit up slightly at the mention of food, but then grew wary. Uncle Danny said not to go anywhere with strangers. Tom nodded approvingly. That's smart advice. Your uncle was right about that. He thought for a moment. Tell you what, how about we just walk over to that food stand right there? He pointed to a nearby vendor only 20 feet away. You can keep sitting on this hay bale if you want, and I'll bring you something. Would that be okay? Lucy May considered this carefully, then nodded. Tom walked to the food stand and bought a hot dog, a bag of chips, and a bottle of water. When he returned, Lucy May was exactly where he'd left her. Still clutching her rabbit. Here you go, he said, setting the food beside her on the hay bale. Lucy May looked at the food, then up at Tom. I don't have any money, she said quietly. That's okay, Tom replied. Consider it a gift. She ate quickly like someone who hadn't had food in a while. Tom watched her with growing concern. Everything about this situation felt wrong. The child's clothes, her obvious hunger, the fact that she'd been abandoned here for hours. While Lucy May ate, Tom scanned the crowd for any sign of a man who might be looking for her. He saw families enjoying the fair, teenagers on dates, elderly couples walking arm in arm, but no one seemed to be searching for a lost child. Lucy May, Tom said gently, can you tell me about your Uncle Danny? What does he look like? He's shorter than you, she said between bites. He has brown hair like mine, but his is messy. And he has marks on his arms. Marks on his arms? Tom asked. Lucy May nodded, rolling up her sleeve to show her forearm. Like this, but with pictures. Uncle Danny calls them tattoos. Tom nodded. That description could fit hundreds of men at the fair, but it was something. Lucy May, where do you live? Where is home? The little girl's face grew sad again. We live in Uncle Danny's trailer. It's not very nice. It smells funny and there's not much food. She paused, then added quietly. It's not really home. Home was with Mama and Daddy, but they went to heaven. Tom's heart broke a little more. This child was an orphan, living with an uncle who clearly wasn't taking proper care of her. An uncle who had now abandoned her at a county fair. I'm sorry about your Mama and Daddy, Tom said softly. That must be very hard. Lucy May nodded, tears forming in her eyes. I miss them every day. Uncle Danny says I shouldn't cry about it anymore because it makes him sad. Tom felt a surge of anger toward this Uncle Danny. What kind of man tells a grieving child not to cry? As the afternoon wore on, Tom stayed with Lucy May. He told himself he was just waiting to see if her uncle would return. But deep down he was beginning to suspect that wasn't going to happen. Other fairgoers passed by, some glancing at the odd pair. A giant cowboy sitting on the ground next to a tiny girl with a stuffed rabbit. But no one stopped to ask questions. No one seemed to recognize Lucy May or wonder why she was there alone. Mr. Tom, Lucy May said after finishing her food, do you think Uncle Danny forgot about me? The hope in her voice was heartbreaking. Tom knew he had to be honest but gentle. I don't know, sweetheart, he said, but I think we should probably find some people who can help us look for him. There are folks here whose job it is to help when children get separated from their families. Lucy May's eyes grew wide with fear. You mean the police? Tom heard the terror in her voice. Well, yes, they might be able to help. Why does that scare you? Uncle Danny says the police are bad. He says if they ever come around, they'll take me away and I'll never see him again. Tom felt his anger toward Uncle Danny growing stronger. The man was clearly involved in something illegal if he was teaching a child to fear law enforcement. But more than that, he was manipulating Lucy May's emotions, making her afraid of the very people who could help her. Lucy May, Tom said carefully, the police aren't bad people. Their job is to keep people safe and help when there's trouble. Sometimes there are police officers here at the fair just to make sure everyone has a good time. But Lucy May was already shaking her head, tears starting to fall. No, I can't. Uncle Danny said terrible things would happen. Tom realized he needed to approach this differently. The child was traumatized and had been fed lies about authority figures. Pushing too hard would only make things worse. Okay, he said gently. We don't have to talk to anyone right now. But Lucy May, it's getting late. The fair will be closing soon and it'll get dark. I can't just leave you here alone. Lucy May looked around at the thinning crowd. The sun was indeed getting lower, and some of the vendors were starting to pack up their goods. The drive to Tom's ranch was quiet except for the gentle hum of his old pickup truck. Lucy May sat beside him, her stuffed rabbit in her lap, looking out the window at the passing countryside. Tom had adjusted his rear-view mirror so he could keep an eye on her. Every few minutes she would glance back toward town, as if hoping to see her uncle following them. Tom's ranch was about 15 miles outside of town, down a gravel road that wound through rolling hills. As they pulled up to his modest farmhouse, Lucy May pressed her face to the window. "You live here all by yourself?" she asked. "Just me and the animals," Tom replied. "I've got some cattle, a few horses, some chickens, and an old dog named Rex." As if summoned by his name, Rex appeared from around the corner of the house. He was a golden retriever mix, getting gray around the muzzle but still spry. When he saw Tom's truck, his tail started wagging. Lucy May shrank back against the seat. "Is he mean?" "Rex? No, he's the gentlest dog you'll ever meet. But if you're scared, we can take things slow." Tom got out of the truck and Rex bounded over, jumping up to put his paws on Tom's chest. "Down, boy," Tom said with a laugh. "We've got company tonight." He walked around to Lucy May's side of the truck and opened the door slowly. She was still pressed against the opposite side, watching Rex warily. "Tell you what," Tom said. "How about you stay right there for a minute and just watch him?" "Rex, sit." The dog obediently sat, his tail still wagging but his body still. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a small biscuit. "Rex knows lots of tricks. Watch this. Rex, shake hands." The dog lifted his right paw. Tom shook it solemnly, then gave him the treat. Rex's tail wagged even harder. Despite her nervousness, Lucy May giggled. It was the first time Tom had heard her laugh, and the sound warmed his heart. "Want to try?" Tom asked, offering her another biscuit. Lucy May considered this, then slowly climbed down from the truck. She approached Rex cautiously, holding out the treat. Rex gently took it from her small hand, his tail wagging the whole time. "He likes you," Tom observed. A small smile crossed Lucy May's face. "I've never had a dog before. Uncle Danny says they're too much trouble." Tom led her toward the house, Rex trotting alongside them. The farmhouse was simple but clean, with a wide front porch and rocking chairs that Tom had made himself. Inside, the furniture was basic but comfortable. The main room served as both living room and dining area, with a stone fireplace taking up most of one wall. "Are you hungry again?" Tom asked. "It's been a few hours since that hot dog." Lucy May nodded shyly. Tom looked in his refrigerator and realized his bachelor lifestyle hadn't prepared him for feeding a child. He had some leftover stew, but it might be too spicy for her. There were eggs, some bread, and sandwich supplies. "How about a grilled cheese sandwich?" he suggested. "I like grilled cheese," Lucy May said. "Mama used to make them for me." As Tom prepared the simple meal, Lucy May wandered around the main room, looking at everything with curious eyes. She stopped in front of a mantelpiece that held a few old photographs. "Who are these people?" she asked, pointing to a faded picture of a young couple. Tom glanced over from the stove. "Those are my parents. They died when I was about your age." Lucy May studied the photo more closely. "Were you sad?" "Very sad," Tom said honestly. "Just like you're sad about your mama and daddy. Do you still miss them?" Tom flipped the sandwich in the pan. "Every day. But the sadness gets easier to carry after a while. It never goes away completely, but it becomes part of you instead of something that hurts all the time." Lucy May nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense to her. When the sandwich was ready, Tom cut it into triangles and served it with a glass of milk. Lucy May ate hungrily, and Tom realized she was probably still making up for missed meals. "Lucy May," he said gently, sitting across from her at the small kitchen table. "Can you tell me more about your Uncle Danny? How long have you been living with him?" Lucy May swallowed a bite of sandwich before answering. "Since right after the funeral. That was when the flowers were still on Mama and Daddy's graves." "And how long ago was that?" Lucy May held up 6 fingers, then added one more. 7 months, I think. Maybe 6. I'm not good with counting time yet." Tom felt his chest tighten. This child had been living in poor conditions for more than half a year. "What happened to your mama and daddy, sweetheart?" "Car crash. Lucy May said matter-of-factly, though Tom could see the pain in her eyes. They were coming home from work when it rained real hard. Their car went off the road. Tom's hands clenched under the table. He knew that stretch of highway. It was dangerous in bad weather, with sharp curves and poor drainage. Too many good people had lost their lives on that road. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. Lucy May shrugged, but Tom could see she was fighting back tears. "Uncle Danny says I need to stop being sad because it won't bring them back." "Uncle Danny is wrong about that," Tom said firmly. "Being sad is normal when you lose someone you love. It's okay to cry. It's okay to miss them." Lucy May looked up at him with surprise. "Really?" "Really. When my parents died, I cried every day for months. My grandfather never told me to stop. He said tears are just love with nowhere to go." This seemed to comfort Lucy May. She took another bite of her sandwich, then said, "Uncle Danny cries sometimes too, but he tries to hide it, and sometimes he yells for no reason." Tom's concern deepened. "Does he yell at you?" Lucy May nodded. "When he's been drinking the bottles that smell bad. He says I'm too much trouble and he never wanted me anyway." Tom felt a surge of anger so strong he had to take a deep breath to control it. What kind of man says such things to a grieving child? "Lucy May, has Uncle Danny ever hurt you, hit you, or touched you in ways that made you uncomfortable?" Lucy May shook her head quickly. "No, he never hits me. He just yells and says mean things, and sometimes he forgets to buy food, so I get really hungry." "How often does that happen?" "A lot. Uncle Danny says food costs too much money, and he needs his money for other things." Tom was beginning to understand the full picture, and it made him sick to his stomach. This child was being neglected, emotionally abused, and probably exposed to drug use or alcoholism. Uncle Danny was clearly not fit to care for anyone, let alone a traumatized 7-year-old. "Lucy May, do you have any other family? Grandparents, aunts, anyone else who might be able to take care of you?" Lucy May shook her head sadly. "Mama said her parents died before I was born, and Daddy's mama lives far away. Uncle Danny is Daddy's brother, but they didn't talk much before Mama and Daddy died, so Uncle Danny was the only family willing to take you in." "I guess so. The lady with the papers said I was lucky he would take me, or I'd have to go live with strangers." Tom realized that some well-meaning social worker had probably thought placing Lucy May with her uncle was the best option. They likely had no idea what kind of man Danny really was, or what kind of life he was providing for his niece. As the evening wore on, Tom learned more about Lucy May's living situation. She slept on a couch in the trailer's main room, because there was only one bedroom. Uncle Danny often had friends over who were loud and scary. Sometimes they stayed for days, drinking and making noise all night. Lucy May would hide in the tiny bathroom until they left. She hadn't been to school since her parents died. "Uncle, Danny said it was too much trouble to register her, and besides, she could learn what she needed to know at home. But he never taught her anything. She spent most days alone in the trailer, watching an old television or playing with her stuffed rabbit." "Don't you get lonely?" Tom asked. "All the time," Lucy May said quietly. "I talk to Bunny a lot." She held up her stuffed rabbit. "She's a good listener." Tom felt his heart breaking all over again. This child had been isolated, neglected, and probably traumatized beyond what he could even imagine. And today, her uncle had simply abandoned her at a county fair like she was an unwanted piece of baggage. "Lucy May," he said carefully, "what do you think happened to Uncle Danny today? Why do you think he didn't come back for you?" Lucy May was quiet for a long time, staring down at her sandwich. When she finally spoke, her voice was very small. "I think maybe he decided he didn't want me anymore," she said. "He's been saying lately that I'm too much trouble and cost too much money. Maybe he thought if he left me at the fair, someone else would take care of me." The matter-of-fact way she said this nearly broke Tom's heart. This child had already figured out that she'd been abandoned, but she was still hoping against hope that her uncle might come back. "I keep thinking maybe he'll remember he forgot me and come looking," she continued. "But it's getting dark now and the fair is probably closed." Tom knelt down beside her chair so they were at eye level. "Lucy May, Even if Uncle Danny does come looking for you, I don't think you should go back to living with him. What you've told me about your life in that trailer doesn't sound safe or happy for a little girl." Lucy May's eyes filled with tears. "But where else would I go? I don't have anywhere else. There are people whose job it is to find safe homes for children who need them," Tom said gently. "Good people who know how to take care of kids and make sure they're happy and healthy." "You mean foster homes?" Lucy May asked. "Uncle Danny told me about those. He said they're terrible places where nobody really wants you, and they just pretend to care so they can get money from the government." The next morning, Tom woke up before dawn as he always did. For a moment he lay in bed listening to the familiar sounds of his ranch. Then he remembered he wasn't alone anymore and his heart started beating faster. He dressed quietly and tiptoed to the living room, where Lucy May was still sleeping on his couch. He'd given her some of his old t-shirts to use as pajamas, and she looked impossibly small under the heavy quilt his grandmother had made years ago. Her stuffed rabbit was tucked safely under her arm. Tom made coffee and stepped onto his front porch, Rex following beside him. The morning air was crisp and clean, and the sun was just starting to peek over the hills. Usually this was his favorite time of day. The peace and quiet helped him plan his work and think through any problems he might face. Today, though, his mind was racing with worry. What was he going to do about Lucy May? He couldn't just keep her here without involving the authorities. But he also couldn't bear the thought of handing her over to a system that might separate them or place her with another family member who might not treat her well. He was still standing on the porch when he heard movement inside the house. A few minutes later, Lucy May appeared at the screen door, rubbing her eyes and clutching her rabbit. "Good morning, sweetheart," Tom said softly. "Did you sleep okay?" Lucy May nodded, though Tom could see she looked a bit confused, as if she wasn't sure where she was for a moment. "I thought maybe it was all a dream," she said quietly. "Nope, not a dream. You're safe here." Tom opened the screen door for her. "Are you hungry?" "I was thinking pancakes for breakfast." Lucy May's eyes lit up. "Real pancakes? Not the kind from a box?" "From scratch," Tom promised. "My grandmother taught me how to make them when I was not much older than you." While Tom mixed the batter, Lucy May sat at the kitchen table and told him about her dream. She'd dreamed about her parents, but for once it wasn't a sad dream. They were at a picnic and they were proud of her for being brave. "They told me you were a good man," Lucy May said seriously. "Mama said your heart was big enough to hold extra love." Tom had to turn away to hide the tears that sprang to his eyes. He'd never thought of himself as having extra love to give. For 20 years he'd lived alone, focused on work and survival. The idea that he might have room in his heart for a child was both thrilling and terrifying. After breakfast, Tom knew he couldn't put off the inevitable any longer. He had to contact the authorities about Lucy May's situation. But first he wanted to prepare her for what was going to happen. "Lucy May," he said as they sat on the front porch steps, watching the chickens peck around the yard. "I need to make some phone calls today. About your situation." Lucy May's hand tightened on her rabbit. "To the police?" "To people who help children," Tom said carefully. "Remember what I told you yesterday? There are good people whose job it is to make sure kids are safe and cared for. But what if they take me away from you?" Lucy May's voice was small and scared. Tom put his arm around her shoulders. "I'm going to tell them that I want to take care of you. But sweetheart, there are rules about these things. It might take some time to work everything out." "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe weeks or months?" Lucy May was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What if Uncle Danny comes looking for me?" Tom had been wondering about that too. The man had clearly abandoned his niece, but what if he changed his mind? What if he decided he wanted her back? Not out of love, but out of spite or some misguided sense of ownership. "If he does, we'll deal with that when it happens," Tom said. "But Lucy May, you need to understand something. Uncle Danny didn't take good care of you. He left you alone at that fair. People who really love children don't do things like that." Lucy May nodded slowly. Even at 7 years old, she understood more about her situation than any child should have to. Tom made his first call to the county sheriff's office. He'd known Sheriff Bradley for years, and the man had always been fair and reasonable. When Tom explained the situation, the sheriff listened without interrupting. "You did the right thing, Tom," Sheriff Bradley said. "But you know I have to contact Child Protective Services. This little girl needs to be officially placed somewhere safe while we figure out what happened to her uncle." I want to apply to be her foster parent, Tom said. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Tom, you know I respect you, but fostering a child isn't like taking in a stray dog. There are background checks, home studies, training requirements, and frankly, a single man with no experience with children isn't usually the first choice for a little girl. Tom felt his heart sink, but he'd expected this response. I understand that. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll have CPS send someone out today to interview the child and assess the situation, Sheriff Bradley said. In the meantime, she can stay with you temporarily. But Tom, don't get your hopes up too high. The system usually tries to place children with families who have experience and proper facilities. After Tom hung up, he found Lucy May in the living room, sitting quietly with her rabbit. She looked up at him with worried eyes. Are they coming to take me away? She asked. Tom sat down beside her on the couch. Someone is coming to talk to both of us, to understand what happened and make sure you're safe. But I told them I want to take care of you. And they said okay? Tom sighed. It's not that simple, sweetheart. They have to make sure I would be a good guardian for you. They have to check things and ask lots of questions. Lucy May processed this information with the seriousness of someone much older than her years. What kinds of questions? About my job, my house, whether I know how to take care of a little girl. Things like that. Do you know how to take care of a little girl? Tom smiled despite his worry. I'm learning. Yesterday I learned that little girls like grilled cheese sandwiches and need to feel safe when they cry. This morning I learned they like real pancakes and have important dreams about their parents. Lucy May giggled softly. That's a good start. The CPS worker arrived that afternoon. Her name was Mrs. Patterson, and she was a kind-faced woman in her 50s who had been working with children for over 20 years. She spent a long time talking to Lucy May alone, asking gentle questions about her life with Uncle Danny and her experiences at the fair. When it was Tom's turn to be interviewed, Mrs. Patterson was professional but not unkind. Lucy May speaks very highly of you, she said, sitting across from Tom at his kitchen table. She says you're the first person in a long time who's made her feel safe. She's a special little girl, Tom replied. No child should have to go through what she's been through. I agree. Her uncle's abandonment of her is deeply concerning. And from what she's told me about her living conditions, this isn't the first time he's failed in his responsibilities. Mrs. Patterson made notes on her clipboard. However, Mr. Johnson, I have to be honest with you. The process of becoming a licensed foster parent is extensive. It typically takes several months and there's no guarantee of approval. What does that mean for Lucy May in the meantime? She'll need to be placed in emergency foster care while we investigate her uncle's whereabouts and begin the process of determining her long-term placement. Tom felt his heart sink. She's already been abandoned once. Now you want to take her away from the one place she feels safe? Mrs. Patterson's expression softened. I understand your concern, and I can see that you genuinely care about Lucy May. But there are protocols we have to follow. Children can't just stay with anyone, even with good intentions. What if I started the foster parent application process immediately? Tom asked. Could she stay here while that's being processed? Mrs. Patterson considered this. It's unusual but not impossible. You'd have to begin the training classes right away, submit to background checks, and allow regular visits from our office. And you'd need to understand that this is temporary. If we find suitable relatives or if your application is denied, Lucy May would be moved. Tom's hands clenched under the table. The thought of Lucy May being moved again, possibly multiple times, made him feel sick. But it was better than having her taken away immediately. I'll do whatever you require, he said. There's something else, Mrs. Patterson said. Lucy May would need to be enrolled in school immediately. She's missed almost a full academic year. Of course. I hadn't even thought about that. She'll also need medical and dental checkups. From what I can see, her basic health care has been neglected. Tom nodded. The list of things he needed to do was growing longer by the minute, but he was determined to handle each challenge as it came. After Mrs. Patterson left, Tom sat down with Lucy May to explain what was going to happen. The lady says I can stay here while you learn how to be a foster parent, Lucy May said. How long does that take? A few months, maybe longer. Lucy May frowned. That's a really long time. I know it seems long, but we'll take it one day at a time. And Lucy May, I need you to understand something important. Even after I finish all the classes and tests, they might decide that someone else would be better at taking care of you. Lucy May's eyes filled with tears. You mean they might still take me away? Tom's heart ached at the fear in her voice. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that doesn't happen, but I don't want to make promises I might not be able to keep. Uncle Danny showed up on a Tuesday morning in late October, driving a beat-up car that looked like it had been in more than one accident. Tom was in the barn checking on a mare who was close to foaling when he heard Rex barking in a way that meant strangers were approaching. Tom walked out to see a man getting out of the car. He was shorter than Tom, with greasy brown hair and the restless movements of someone who wasn't entirely sober. His arms were covered in the tattoos Lucy May had described, and his clothes looked like he'd been sleeping in them. You Tom Johnson? The man called out. I am. Can I help you? Name's Danny Walsh. I'm here for my niece. Tom felt his blood run cold. Lucy May was at school, thank goodness, but she'd be home on the bus in a few hours. Mr. Walsh, Tom said carefully, keeping his voice calm. Where have you been for the past 3 months? Danny laughed, but there was no humor in it. Had some business to take care of. Look, I appreciate you watching Lucy for me, but I'm ready to take her home now. Watching her for you? Tom's anger started to rise. You abandoned her at a county fair. She waited for you for hours. I didn't abandon nobody, Danny snapped. I got held up, that's all. Had some guys I owed money to catch up with me. Took me a while to sort things out. Tom studied the man more closely. Danny's hands were shaking slightly, and his eyes had the glassy look of someone under the influence. There was also something desperate about his manner, as if he was trying very hard to appear normal. Mr. Walsh, Lucy May is in protective custody now. She can't just leave with you. Danny's demeanor changed instantly. His face darkened, and he stepped closer to Tom. She's my blood. My brother's kid. No court's gonna say I can't take care of my own family. Have you been in contact with Child Protective Services? Tom asked. Those people don't know nothing about family. Danny spat. They're just government busybodies trying to break up families. Lucy belongs with me. Tom could see that reasoning with this man was going to be impossible. Danny was clearly not thinking straight, and Tom suspected he was desperate for reasons that had nothing to do with love for his niece. Mr. Walsh, I think you should contact CPS and work through them. Lucy May is settled here, she's in school, and she's doing well. I don't need to work through nobody, Danny said, his voice rising. Where is she? Lucy May. Come out here. Tom stepped forward, placing himself between Danny and the house. She's not here right now, and I'm not going to let you take her anywhere without proper legal clearance. Danny's eyes narrowed. You think you're better than me, don't you? Big ranch, nice house. But you don't know that kid like I do. She's got problems. Cries all the time, has nightmares, barely eats. You'll get tired of dealing with all that soon enough. Those problems exist because of how she was treated, Tom said firmly. Children who are loved and cared for properly don't have those issues. You calling me a bad guardian? Danny stepped even closer, and Tom could smell alcohol on his breath. I'm saying Lucy May deserves better than being abandoned at county fairs. For a moment, Tom thought Danny might actually try to fight him. The smaller man's hands clenched into fists and his face twisted with anger. But then he seemed to remember that Tom was considerably larger and probably stronger. This ain't over, Danny said, backing toward his car. That's my niece, and I'm gonna get her back. You can't keep what don't belong to you. As Danny drove away, Tom immediately called Mrs. Patterson at CPS. She listened to his account of the encounter with obvious concern. This complicates things, she said. Mr. Walsh has legal rights as Lucy May's closest relative. We'll need to evaluate his current living situation and his fitness as a guardian. The man was clearly under the influence of something, Tom said, and he's been missing for 3 months. I understand your concerns, and they'll definitely be part of our evaluation. But legally, he's still her guardian unless a court says otherwise. What does this mean for Lucy May? For now, nothing changes. She remains in your care while we investigate. But Mr. Johnson, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that she might be returned to her uncle if he can demonstrate that he's capable of caring for her. Tom's heart sank. After the call, he sat on his porch trying to figure out how to tell Lucy May that Uncle Danny had returned. When the school bus dropped her off that afternoon, she came running up the driveway with a big smile on her face, excited to tell him about a story she'd written in class. Tom, Dad. Mrs. Williams said my story was so good she wants to put it on the bulletin board. Tom's heart ached at her enthusiasm. How could he possibly tell her that the uncle who had abandoned her was now trying to claim her back? That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'd love to read it. Lucy May chatted happily about her day while they did the evening chores together. She helped him feed the horses and collect eggs from the chickens, telling him about her friends at school and a book she was reading. Tom tried to act normal, but his mind was racing with worry. It wasn't until after dinner, when they were sitting by the fireplace, that Tom found the courage to bring up Uncle Danny's visit. "Lucy May, I need to tell you about something that happened today." She looked up from the picture she was coloring. "What?" "Your Uncle Danny came by the ranch." Lucy May's crayon stopped moving. Her face went completely white, and Tom could see her hands starting to shake. Is he here?" she whispered. "No, sweetheart, he left. But he says he wants you to come back and live with him." Lucy May dropped her crayon and scooted closer to Tom on the couch. "I don't want to go back there. Please don't make me go back." "I'm not going to make you do anything," Tom said, putting his arm around her. "But Lucy May, I have to be honest with you. The law says that Uncle Danny is your family, and if he can prove he can take care of you properly, the court might say you have to go back to him." Lucy May started crying then. Not the quiet tears she sometimes shed when she missed her parents, but deep, panicked sobs that shook her whole body. "He doesn't really want me," she cried. "He just feels like he has to take me because I'm family. But he doesn't love me. He told me lots of times that I was too much trouble." Tom held her tighter, feeling his own heart breaking. "I know, baby girl. I know. Will you fight for me?" Lucy May asked between sobs. "Will you tell them that I want to stay here with you?" "I'll do everything I can," Tom promised. "But I want you to understand that this might be out of my control." Lucy May cried herself to sleep that night, and Tom carried her to her bed. She had graduated from sleeping on the couch to a real bedroom that Tom had prepared for her. He'd painted it a soft yellow color and bought her a proper bed with a white wooden frame. She had shelves for books and a small desk for homework. It looked like a little girl's room full of love and hope. The next few weeks were tense. Mrs. Patterson and other social workers visited Danny's trailer and interviewed him extensively. They found that he had cleaned up the place somewhat and claimed to have stopped drinking. He said he'd been dealing with grief over his brother's death and had made some mistakes, but he was ready to be a proper guardian now. Meanwhile, Lucy May was struggling. She had trouble sleeping and concentrating at school. She clung to Tom whenever he was around and worried constantly that Uncle Danny would show up and take her away. "What if he comes when I'm at school?" she asked one morning. "The school knows not to release you to anyone except me or Mrs. Patterson," Tom assured her. "You're safe there," but Tom could see that the uncertainty was taking a toll on Lucy May. She was losing weight and had dark circles under her eyes from not sleeping well. Tom's own foster parent application was still being processed, but Mrs. Patterson warned him that even if he was approved, it might not matter if Uncle Danny was deemed fit to care for Lucy May. Courts generally prefer to keep children with blood relatives when possible, she explained. "Even if those relatives abandon them?" Tom asked. "Mr. Walsh claims that was a one-time mistake made during a period of grief and poor judgment. If he can show he's stable now, the court might give him another chance." Tom felt like he was fighting a losing battle. But then something happened that changed everything. It was a Friday evening, and Tom was helping Lucy May with her homework at the kitchen table when they heard a car coming up the driveway. Rex started barking, and Lucy May immediately tensed up. "Is it Uncle Danny?" she whispered. Tom looked out the window and saw a police car. Sheriff Bradley got out along with Deputy Martinez. "Stay here," Tom told Lucy May, and went outside to meet them. "Tom," Sheriff Bradley said, his expression grim, "we need to talk. What's happened?" "Danny Walsh was arrested this morning. Drug possession with intent to distribute. Looks like he's been dealing meth to support his own habit." Tom felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that Uncle Danny was out of the picture, but sadness that Lucy May's only blood relative had proven to be so unfit. "What does this mean for Lucy May?" "Legally, it means he's no longer considered a suitable guardian. CPS will be looking for alternative permanent placement for her." Sheriff Bradley paused, then smiled slightly. "I also heard through the grapevine that your foster parent application was approved yesterday. Mrs. Patterson was planning to call you Monday." Tom's heart leaped. "It was approved? Congratulations, Tom. You passed all the requirements with flying colors." 1 year later, Tom stood in front of his bedroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the third time. He wasn't used to wearing formal clothes, and the tie felt like it was trying to strangle him. But today was special. Today was the day he and Lucy May would go to court to make their family official through adoption. "Dad," Lucy May called from downstairs. "You look fine. We're going to be late." Tom smiled at the impatience in her voice. In the past year, Lucy May had blossomed from a scared, quiet little girl into a confident, happy child who wasn't afraid to speak her mind. She had strong opinions about everything from what to have for breakfast to which calves needed extra attention. He found her in the living room, wearing the new dress they'd bought specially for today. It was blue with small white flowers, and she'd insisted on wearing her cowboy boots with it because they're part of who I am now. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," Tom said, "and you look handsome, even if you did fight with that tie for 20 minutes, Lucy May replied with a grin. The drive to the courthouse was filled with nervous chatter. Lucy May had been looking forward to this day for months, ever since Tom had explained that adoption would make her legally his daughter, not just his foster child. "Will I have to change my name?" she had asked when he first brought up adoption. "Only if you want to," Tom had replied. "You could be Lucy May Johnson, or you could keep your original name. It's up to you." Lucy May had thought about this for a long time. Finally, she had decided she wanted to be Lucy May Johnson. "I want to keep May because that was my mama's middle name," she explained. "But I want Johnson too because you're my dad now." As they walked into the courthouse, Tom noticed that Lucy May wasn't nervous at all. If anything, she seemed excited. She skipped a little as they made their way to the courtroom, and she waved at Mrs. Patterson, who was there to support them. Judge Williams was a kind-faced woman in her 60s who had handled family court cases for over 20 years. She smiled when she saw them approach the bench. "Good morning, Mr. Johnson." "Good morning, Lucy May. Are you ready to make this official?" "Yes, ma'am," Lucy May said clearly. "I've been ready for a long time." The proceedings were simpler than Tom had expected. Judge Williams asked him a few questions about his commitment to being Lucy May's father, and she asked Lucy May if she understood what adoption meant, and if it was what she really wanted. "Your Honor," Lucy May said, standing up straighter, "Tom has been my real dad since the day he found me at the fair. This just makes it so everyone else knows it too." Judge Williams smiled. "That's a very wise way to put it, Lucy May." When the judge signed the final papers, Tom felt a wave of emotion wash over him. This little girl who had wandered into his life by chance was now officially his daughter, Lucy May Johnson. His child. "Congratulations, Mr. Johnson," Judge Williams said. "You are now Lucy May's legal father, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." Lucy May turned to Tom with tears of joy in her eyes. "We did it, Dad. We're really a family now." Tom knelt down and pulled her into a hug, not caring that there were tears streaming down his own face. "We've been a family for a long time, sweetheart. Now it's just official." After the ceremony, they went to lunch at Lucy May's favorite restaurant in town. She insisted on calling everyone they knew to share the news. She called her teacher, Mrs. Williams, who had become an important person in her life. She called Tom's neighbor, Mr. Peterson, who had helped Tom learn how to braid her hair. She even called the veterinarian, Dr. Roberts, who had taught her how to help deliver calves. "Everyone needs to know," Lucy May explained to Tom as she made her calls. "This is the most important day of my life." On the drive home, Lucy May was unusually quiet. Tom glanced at her in the rearview mirror and saw that she was staring out the window with a thoughtful expression. "What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" "Just remembering," she said softly. "Remembering what it felt like before, when I didn't know if I'd have a place to stay or if anyone really wanted me." Tom's heart ached at the memory of that scared little girl he'd found at the fair. "And how does it feel now?" Lucy May smiled. "Like I'm exactly where I belong. Like I have roots that go deep, just like the oak trees on our ranch." When they got home, Rex greeted them with his usual enthusiasm, as if he somehow knew this was a celebration day. Lucy May ran to the pasture to tell the horses about the adoption, something she did whenever important things happened in her life. "Buttercup," she called to her favorite mare. "Guess what? Dad and I are official now." The judge said so. Tom watched from the fence as Lucy May shared her news with each of the animals. She had such a natural way with them, and they seemed to sense her gentle spirit. The horses would lower their heads so she could scratch behind their ears, and the barn cats followed her around like she was their special human. That evening, As they sat on the front porch watching the sunset, Lucy May curled up next to Tom in the big rocking chair he'd built. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think Mama and Daddy know about today? About us becoming a real family?" Tom considered this carefully. He had never been particularly religious, but Lucy May's faith had taught him to think about things differently. "I think they know," he said softly, "and I think they're happy that you found someone who loves you as much as they did." Lucy May nodded, satisfied with this answer. "I dream about them sometimes still, but they're not sad dreams anymore. In my dreams, they're proud of me. And they like you." "They like me?" Mama always said she could tell good people by how they treated animals and children. "You're good with both." Tom felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Your mama sounds like she was a very wise woman." She was. "And Daddy was funny and kind, just like you." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn pink and orange as the sun set behind the hills. Rex dozed at their feet and the cattle grazed peacefully in the distance. "Dad?" Lucy May said again. "Yes?" "Thank you for not leaving me at the fair." Tom tightened his arms around her. "Thank you for asking me to take you home. Are you glad your life changed so much? Sometimes I worry that you miss the quiet." Tom thought about this question seriously. His life had indeed changed completely. His house was no longer quiet. His schedule revolved around school events and doctor appointments. And his heart had been stretched to accommodate a love he never knew he was capable of feeling. "Lucy May," he said finally, "before you came into my life I thought I was living, but I was really just existing. You taught me the difference." "What's the difference?" "Existing is just getting through each day. Living is caring about someone so much that their happiness becomes more important than your own." Lucy May tilted her head back to look at him. "Is that what love is?" "That's exactly what love is." As the months passed after the adoption, their life together continued to flourish. Lucy May excelled in school, making friends easily and throwing herself into activities like 4-H and the school science fair. She won second place for a project about horse behavior, something she had learned by observing Tom's horses. Tom found himself attending parent-teacher conferences, school plays, and soccer games. He learned to style hair beyond basic braids, helped with homework subjects he hadn't thought about in decades, and discovered that he had a talent for making elaborate birthday cakes. Lucy May's 10th birthday was particularly special. Tom organized a party at the ranch, inviting all her school friends and their families. They had pony rides, a treasure hunt in the barn, and a cake shaped like a horse that Tom had spent 3 days perfecting. As he watched Lucy May laughing with her friends, showing them around the ranch with obvious pride, Tom marveled at how far she had come. The scared, abandoned little girl from the county fair had grown into a confident, joyful child who knew without a doubt that she was loved and wanted. "She's quite something, Mrs. Williams," her teacher said as they watched the children play. "She is," Tom agreed. "Sometimes I can't believe she's mine." "Oh, she's definitely yours," Mrs. Williams laughed. "She has your determination and your way of treating every living thing with respect. But she also has something uniquely her own, a kind of wisdom that comes from having faced hard things and come through them stronger." That night, after all the guests had gone home and Lucy May was getting ready for bed, she came to find Tom on the porch. "Dad, this was the best birthday ever," she said, settling into her favorite spot next to him. "I'm glad you had fun." "I was thinking today about that little girl at the fair," Lucy May said thoughtfully. "The one who asked you to take her home. What about her? I wonder if she knew that day how everything was going to turn out. If she could see into the future and see this life we have now." Tom smiled. "What do you think?" "I think maybe deep down she did know. I think she knew you were the person who could help her find her way home." "And did she? Find her way home?" Lucy May looked around at the ranch that had become their world. The house where she felt safe, the animals that knew her voice, the wide open spaces where she could run and dream and grow. "Yeah," she said with certainty. "She found her way home." As they sat together in the gathering darkness, Tom reflected on the twists of fate that had brought them together. A decision to attend a county fair he almost skipped. A little girl with the courage to ask a stranger for help.